Ta-da. Everything's great.
What have you done to me?
Don't you look nice?
I look haunted.
It's true. We could save this for a Halloween thing. Anyways, so... Well,
are you just leaving me like that?
well, I could do something to me too.
At least make it even.
That's how we add variety to our streams. Can I get one fuck me up fam in the back? Okay, so today, while I'm messing with the shaders, today we're going to be talking about our favorite games. And I don't know whether or not we're going to do a list or not, but I feel like we should do a list. Because I asked Sarah technically yesterday about if she knew her top 3 favorite games, and she said yes. And I figured out my top 3. I knew at least 2, but I figured out the 3rd one.
I know my top 5.
Oh.
What have you done?
Oh. Hold on.
Hey, Mikey. Hi, Faye. Oh, he's figuring that out.
There. Is this better? I feel like this is fine.
I just have a stick for a hand now.
There. I'll be an amalgamation and you can be that.
Oh my god.
Okay. So. I think we should go in order from 3rd to 1st. With a possible runner-up.
For you, a runner-up.
I have a runner-up. But that's just because I liked how it played. Okay, I'll go first. So, my 3rd favorite, specifically, we talked about... I'm gonna get off topic again, but it's technically on topic. Me and Sarah talked about how Minecraft was a possibility, but I specifically mentioned that I think Minecraft in and of itself isn't necessarily my favorite game as much as it held more memories because of the people and the things that I did with people. So like getting on servers and talking with people on them and all that stuff. Because typically when I remember Minecraft like memories, I think of either DioQuiz, which was the server that we had, or I think of like Block Party and Mineplex and stuff. because that's where we just did a bunch of stuff all the time. Or God forbid ranch and craft. But that was a separate entity. But I would say third favorite game is... Well, now I don't know if this is the third. No, third favorite game. Third favorite game is Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess.
Okay.
With a runner-up of Breath of the Wild.
That's fair.
But the
I
thing
feel like
is,
you're trying to pick your favorite Zelda game out of those two.
no, there's no more Zelda games in my list after this. But Breath of the Wild was really, really good, and I do have good memories playing it. But Twilight Princess holds an even specialer place in my heart because of childhood too. So, for those of you that don't know about Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, let me tell you. Shut up,
We will
Pide.
have no Breath of the Wild slander here.
Shut up, Pide. You can have your critically acclaimed
You
possible
play
Tears of the
gotcha
Kingdom
games. You
thing.
can shut up.
But anyways, I'm just gonna refer to it as Twilight Princess anyway, because whole Legend of Zelda, you get it. Out of all the Zelda games, I don't know how familiar everyone else is with the Zelda games. I know Sarah has played a decent amount, not finished a decent amount, but played
Not
a decent
finished,
amount.
but I've played a decent amount, yes.
I've
watched a lot.
It's true. The Twilight Princess, I think it's very critically acclaimed for being the most like edgy Zelda game because of not only like the dark style and like the aesthetic of it, but also there's just a lot of creepiness and death and stuff in it. Which, to be fair, Zelda in and of itself can be a very creepy series because it has a lot of weird ass lore, but it's just amplified by like the setting, I would suppose, in Twilight Princess. But Twilight Princess in and of itself, the dark aesthetic, I think, is partially one of the main reasons I do like it so much more than a bunch of the other games, including Breath of the Wild. Even though Breath of the Wild, great game. Shut up, Pide. Because it's comparative to like Breath of the Wild, Twilight Princess has like a story, like a set story that obviously you go through and you have to do. But even with that being said, the temples and all of the puzzles and everything, and just how the story unfolds, feels very cinematic and very movie-esque. Mikey, we all had emo phases, and to be fair,
It's true.
I played Twilight Princess probably back when I was like 11. That was like the first time I played it. Because the way it was, me and my sister, we had a Wii, you know, for our childhood. Because if you didn't have a Wii, you were a lame person.
It's true.
And we had a Wii, and we got the Twilight Princess game on Wii, because originally it was a GameCube game. That's where it released. But they made a port for the Wii. And that's, you know, when you could swing around the remote and have a fun time thinking you were swinging a sword. Before Skyward Sword came out. And because of that, see, when I played games when I was little, I did not know what was going on. in the games. Like I have memories of playing these games, but if I ever go back to playing the games that I played in my childhood, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much strategy to this game. What was I doing when I was playing it?
There's so much more to this game that I've never done.
Like I remember doing that with some of my like DS games back in the day, and I was like, oh my gosh, I was just vibing. Like I don't understand how I was even doing it.
No thoughts, just vibes, just pressing my little buttons.
Literally. And so I remember I still have Andrew's Pokemon Rangers game from way back when. And I remember when I was playing that, I was just playing because I like drawing circles around the Pokemon, but there's an actual story to it and everything. But yeah, anyways. So when we got it for the Wii,
Stuck during my Pokemon Ranger game.
originally my sister was the main one that was playing it, that, you know, had comprehension that could play it to the extent you were supposed to. So when I played it for the first time, I wasn't doing very well, or, you know, thinking. So I watched my sister play it a lot of the time, But then I've replayed it multiple times over the years, so is my sister, because it's kind of like a comfort game since we played it together all the time. And the story and the art style, it hits different when you're older, because you're like, yes. You know? You're like, yes. Like, I have said this, I'm gonna pull it up now, but I've said this to Sarah before, because we've had discussions about which rupee from the entire Zelda franchise would be the best to crunch. And I argued for the Twilight Princess ones because of how good they look. They're all like glowy and they look like candy. And because it's true, okay?
If he had to die, he would like to die choking on a giant ruby.
Honestly, because they also made such a satisfying noise. Which, granted, they make satisfying noises all the time, but especially in this game. I'll do this. As I minimize this.
Yes, Mikey, they are gemstones. They are basically like gems.
They are. It's like they're not.
But have you never looked at a diamond and thought, ooh, crunchy?
They're not rubies. They're rupees. Because I used to call them rubies, and they're not. They're like their own weird entity. Here.
I think I confused the two in my head, and I thought that rubies were called rupees.
Here.
You said you weren't gonna put anything on the stream.
I said I was thinking about it, but look. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this lovely little boy. This boy looks tasty. Okay? No, don't look at the twink. To be fair, he's closer to a twunk in this game.
It's true.
If you've seen the sumo wrestling scenes, he's closer to a twunk. Which, that's another thing. Gay Awakening, pick your favorite link. Because there are a lot of options where
none of the child.
Children are off limits.
None of the children.
Children are off limits. But yeah. Anyways, so I think my favorite part of this game specifically, in relation to the story, the aesthetic, all of it combined, is that it's called Twilight Princess, obviously. And the whole reason it's called Twilight Princess is because there is a other dimension called the Twilight Realm. And this is really when we get into the emo phase. It's called the Twilight Realm, and there's a princess that rules over it. And the whole point of it is that it's supposed to be like the normal world, except it's darker, essentially. And there's like black squares floating about and everything, and there's these weird portals. And it's just a really interesting take on like flipped dimension in a way, because obviously the main perpetrator of basically almost any Zelda game, not all, but almost all Zelda games, is Ganondorf. So
isn't like the only game where it's not a form of Ganon, whether it's in Calamity form or all of those things, is like Majora's Mask?
I want to say yes. I swear there's one of the earlier ones too that isn't him.
I mean, I'm not okay. I guess yeah.
The Link of the Four Swords one has that eyeball dude.
Oh,
I don't remember. His name is like Vatu or something.
And I don't know about the Link. I don't know about Legend of Zelda 1 and 2. So
I think those ones might have Ganon, but he's like in the pig form.
I think so, yeah.
But regardless, as you know, Ganondorf, main enemy all the time. But because of like the whole Twilight Realm and how there's different enemies, and I'm trying not to spoil too much because technically speaking, Sarah's supposed to be playing it.
Supposed to be playing it. Haven't finished it.
Haven't finished it, but you know, there's just there's a really cool enemy from the Twilight Realm that technically speaking you have seen before, Sarah. Zant, you know, and he is like this faux enemy essentially because you fight him, but ultimately he's not the main source of all the evil and corruption. It's Ganondorf. He was just like a puppet. And so the fights, the music, everything about it, I have literal Twilight Princess music in this playlist for the podcast because it's very relaxing and very creepy at the same time. So it's also in the creepy podcast playlist too that I made. But yeah, I would say that's third favorite of all time due to just how it exists in general, but also fond memories of it as child with my sister. And with that, I give the floor to washed out Sarah.
Before I go over mine, have you seen a lot of the speedrunning categories for Twilight Princess?
No. What are the different categories?
There are some very interesting ones. So there's a version of Twilight Princess, I think it's the Wii port specifically, that it has a thing where if you're in a dialogue box of some kind, you slowly move.
Oh yeah, I know that. You like
So,
you
yeah.
can slowly move across the entire damn map eventually.
Yeah, and so like that's one of the speedrun categories is doing as little as possible and getting as
Yeah.
little items as possible.
I think I like watching the speedrun categories where it's either the speedrun or just the playthroughs where every item is a randomized item. Because
Oh,
of
yeah,
how
those are fun.
chaotic it is.
Those are very fun. In any game, those are just fun.
But also in a Zelda game, it makes it so difficult because you need certain items to complete temples.
I think they have one for Wind Waker, I believe, and I watched someone play that one and it was very interesting.
It's okay, Mikey. One day, if time permits, I will stream a Zelda game that I haven't played fully. Because I
Need
don't
to figure
think
out how to.
I don't think I remember ever fully finishing Majora's Mask. Like I played it, but I never finished it because it stressed me out, and that's when I was a child. So
So, Hide, technically, it's complicated with Skyward Sword. I love Skyward Sword. It's not in my top 5, but I do love Skyward Sword. It's my favorite Zelda game, that's for sure. But it has what I believe is called the Calamity. Not to be confused with Calamity Ganon, but it is the Calamity. And the thing is the main person that you are fighting is obsessed with awakening the Demon King, who is Ganon, and everything. So I believe it is confirmed in the actual
which, speaking of,
lore, that Calamity is also Ganon.
I always thought
and-
of Calamity as like a primordial version of Ganondorf.
Yeah, it is, because it being unlocked and defeated is what starts the infinite loop of them constantly getting reincarnated.
Yeah. And by the way, speaking of,
Or maybe it's Demise. Yeah, it might be called Demise. I can't remember. It's either Demise or Calamity. I think Demise is it.
I just want to show, because I'm showing another thing. Ta-da! This is Demise. This is Faye's husband. But yeah, I always imagined Demise to be like the most primordial version of the evil that started the loop, because that's
Yeah,
like how it was
that's-
presented.
That is isn't that technically like the
Look.
Triforce piece of power or whatever it is?
He has feetsies.
Isn't it power, bravery, and wisdom?
I thought it was courage.
Courage?
Power, courage, and wisdom.
Power, courage, and wisdom. So I think this is the one of power.
This is power.
the actual embodiment of it.
This is power.
I mean, most I remember about Demise is when he's in his little dinosaur form and you have to pop his toes.
Yeah, it's a bit nasty, but
I don't know. I thought it was satisfying as a kid.
yeah, but if you think about it, it's really gross.
We don't think about it. And there was a little pinky toe in the back you had to get.
There's a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm pretty
And,
sure. Was it okay? Was it the goddesses that originally split them into 3, or was it a goddess that was also supposed to be the courage, not the courage, the wisdom one? Wasn't it a goddess that was supposed to be wisdom, and then the hero was just courage?
Yeah, I think the hero was just courage. But from what I can remember, it was a case of they were all initially on the ground. Then the goddesses, in order to protect them from the Calamity or Demise or whoever it was, brought them up into the sky. which is where we have Skyward Sword,
Mhm.
and then technically, I guess we have the Zions from Tears of the Kingdom.
See, this is I literally have the Legend of Zelda like lore book that has the quote unquote official timeline.
But that doesn't have Breath of the Wild.
And it doesn't have any of the new stuff in it, but also this series is so annoying to get into. I think it's best if you just play it
lore-wise,
as an alone thing.
Yeah, don't look at the lore because it gets confusing because you have timelines and you have to deal with all that shit.
If you just look at it as a standalone puzzle adventure game, I think that's the best way to play a Zelda game.
Yeah, there's a few games that it's like they kind of go together, like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but otherwise you just kind of leave it.
Anyways, so Sarah, your third option.
So, while you have a runner-up, I have two.
Oh boy.
Excuse me. I have two that are either second or third, because I can't really decide which one's above the other.
Then they're both runners up.
They're both runners up, yes. But what I have it written as, simply because of the wider scale of things, I have Undertale as my third favorite game.
That's surprising. I thought you would have put that at least at second.
It was at second initially, and I think as in terms of individual games, it is. But I'll explain
what do you mean
why.
Individual games.
I'll explain why. Like, Undertale is a standalone game, unless you count Deltarune, which I haven't played a lot of. But Undertale itself has a lot of nostalgia feeling for me, but it also is just a really, really good game, both story-wise, mechanic-wise, jokes, characters. Like, it's a really, really good game. Music, the music, and the fandom.
Crazy.
Fandom is absolutely bonkers. It's calmed down a little bit since like the 2016, 2017 years, but it's
How little
it's
bit?
now. Oh, I haven't interacted with it as much, to be fair, because like Undertale is what got me into Tumblr.
Tumblr's a dangerous place.
And if I hadn't gotten into Tumblr, I would not have met a lot of my current friends. So in a way, I have Undertale to thank for my current friend groups.
It's true. She did meet Shinny through Tumblr.
I did not. I'm not. No, Osha isn't in that group. But a lot of my other ones are the British friend that I had over. I met through Tumblr, not through Undertale, but through Tumblr. So.
Pre or post ban?
I met her. I think I met her senior year.
Shinny,
ban.
how do you not know what Tumblr is? How is that even possible?
Also, Mikey, Osha is the name of a friend group that has like Quiz, Shinny, Faye, Hide, people like
Oh, I thought Hide was saying that's what OSHA was. It was a porn site. That too.
No.
Yeah, but you don't need to go on it to hear of its infamy. Like,
It's a giant collection of what they're called blogs, and people. It's mostly a fandom space.
Think of it as like a different. It's like MySpace adjacent.
Yeah. The idea was that you had more freedom for what you could post on there too. But then there was the ban. I thought you said band, like my school band, and I was very
had
confused.
nothing to do with it.
Yeah, no, that's why I was confused. No, ban. I met my friend post ban, because the ban happened while I was like in sophomore or junior in high school. And I think I was falling out of Undertale then. And I think I was in my My Hero Academia phase, actually.
Because basically, I only say that not because I thought you were looking up porn on Tumblr, but because generally speaking, after the ban, a lot of people just started leaving. And that's when they migrate to other sites.
Okay, that's the thing. They said they left. A lot of people came back.
I think a lot of people came back now.
Yeah.
Because it's still active now.
thing is, there's obviously issues with the site because it's, yeah, but it's still arguably, I still think it's the best place for fandoms because you can really curate the posts you get, unlike Twitter where you just get a lot of random stuff. And also with Twitter, there's a lot more drama and you're also limited on Twitter. On Tumblr, you are not. So a lot of people post their links for their fanfics that they write, or they post a lot of fan art. So there's a lot of more freedom even now. And I think the only other place I can think of that is really fandom based is like Amino or something like that. But
Amino's weird though.
Amino, I could never really get into because it's also, I think Amino is more of a place for artists than it is for average fans. Tumblr, you can see everything.
Some things you don't want to see.
That's true.
But that's the nature of Tumblr, honestly.
That is the nature of Tumblr. I did Undertale roleplay on Tumblr. That's the reason I got into Tumblr.
Oh yeah, big RP scene in Tumblr.
Big
For
RP scene.
all the different genres
Yes.
and all the different fandoms.
I had a few roleplay blogs. But there was a time where one of my mutuals, and he there was just a random time, I don't know what happened to him, but he decided that he was gonna post a dick pic on his main thing, and I was like, I think I was maybe 15, and I saw that and I'm like, ah! I immediately unfollowed.
I immediately unfollowed. The highest regard of a no.
I was like, I don't really want this on my thing. Especially because I think this was also the time, near the time frame where things were happening with my mother in terms of my internet usage and everything. So I was like, I'm not risking anything.
I think Hide, for Discord's obviously much more chat-based because it's literally just a chat thing. But for Tumblr, it's meant very much to be a personalized thing.
It's more personalized. How I would describe it, Discord is active, Tumblr is more passive. Because there's also the entire act of queuing things, of asking things to certain blogs, to
because you also don't have to talk to anyone on Tumblr. You could just vibe in your own lane.
You can vibe, just look at art, reblog it and everything. You can post stuff. It's entirely up to you how you want to do it.
I remember I liked seeing how people would customize their pages because you could like literally custom code your HTML and do all of that stuff, and people would go crazy with it, like how they used to do on MySpace, and they would have these crazy custom blogs. The
thing is with that now, it's not as easy.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So it's a lot more rare to see it.
That's what sucks
but
about
it's still
it.
there. It's still there.
But it's behind a bigger wall, essentially.
It is behind a bigger wall. It's also harder to get to do it. Because I was trying to revamp one of my blogs earlier in the year, and I had issues with that because I was trying to do stuff. Not even a custom theme or anything, just like edit pages. And I got into that side of it too because roleplay blogs are in depth.
And if you can code a good one that has a really good like UI, I think that makes it so much better too. And
then people would also like share them too. Like there was entire things like Tumblr is also where you can get a lot of good like Sims CC. I only mention this because there's a specific Maxis Match Tumblr blog where you can get Maxis Match CC.
And a bunch of just custom CC for very niche things that you would not expect people would have, but it's because they made the CC and they're like, if anyone else wants it. Yeah. So, this was supposed to be about Undertale, but to me, Undertale and Tumblr go hand in hand in my brain. So. Oh yeah, I think they do naturally, just in general. So yeah, I think of that, but I think also it's just the fact that Undertale stands against the test of time in terms of how good of a game it is. Like, sure, maybe it's all pixel, so you don't really have to worry about graphics all that much. The
it has both easy difficulties and hard difficulties. It has one of the most infamous soundtracks, one of the most infamous characters now, of interesting lore, interesting secrets, just a whole bunch of stuff that is just really, really cool and really detailed. And it's a really good game, especially when you get into Deltarune stuff and you realize that, oh, this was never the original story.
I think Undertale is like the perfect epitome example of an internet game.
Yes.
Essentially, because of how all tiny bits of it, whether it be like a character or the lore behind it or the music, have like dispersed themselves into different parts of the internet. And I think that's just what, even if like you don't like Undertale, you know what Undertale is.
You know what Undertale is, and you know at least, I think everyone knows at least 2 to 3 things about Undertale, whether they want to or not.
Yeah.
And usually that's who Sans is, and the song Megalovania. And that Toby Fox is the one who made it. In my mind, it's a weird comparison.
Oh boy.
In my mind, Toby Fox is 2 video games who Lin-Manuel Miranda is to musicals.
You know, I am not the crowd that would understand what that means.
Meaning that he has dipped his toes in a lot more things than people realize he has. And there's just times where you're like, excuse me? Toby Fox? Where did you come from? Sort of a deal. If you see his name and go, wait, what? Then that's the feeling. Because they know they know them for one thing, but then they've done so many other things.
It's similar, at least in my mind, because of what I think of, it's similar to like music producers. Because they'll help with a bunch of different tracks that you might like, and then you'll realize that the whole reason that you like them is probably because they had that person working on them.
It makes you think of what?
Music producers.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, okay.
So that is my 3rd favorite.
I'll do 2nd favorite. So 2nd favorite for me. This shouldn't be a surprise, but it's a Pokemon game.
But which one?
Pokemon Platinum.
Ah.
The original Pokemon Platinum on the DS. And in my mind, obviously Diamond and Pearl, great. I'm the one that I played Diamond, so I'm not as much of a Pearl fan, but that's just me. But Platinum in and of itself, first of all, to explain it a bit, I am a very big fan of the Pokemon games where it's 2 releases and then a 3rd one that ties them together. Kind of like how they're going to be doing the Pokemon Z thing soon. They're not calling it Pokemon Z.
ZA. It's Pokemon Legends ZA.
Basically. and even then, it's a long-awaited one, so it's not necessarily the same thing. But between Diamond and Pearl being released,
do we get remakes too with those?
It's like when we got Crystal with Gold and Silver, the original ones. Yeah. I love the 3rd ones because the 3rd ones, to me, tie in all of the parts you loved about the first 2 and they add extra stuff.
Yeah, Emerald, Crystal, Platinum.
And so I
yeah.
loved Platinum because it had something that the original 2 did not have, and I'm not just talking about Giratina. I'm talking about the Distortion World. Because the Distortion World was so cool. You might be seeing a theme. It's weird little dark places in games that I like. Because this is same in Twilight Princess.
When the game gets weird, he likes it.
But also, Diamond and Pearl and Platinum have probably one of the most favorited champions, I would say. So that's why a lot of people know.
They have Cynthia.
They have Cynthia. Yeah. And a lot of people love her.
Because she's one of the hardest.
I guess. To be fair, again, when I was playing the game, obviously I played it when I was younger, and so I was just vibing.
vibes, level hundreds, just like. Ooh.
I was just vibing level 100s, literally Pokemon that I had since the beginning of like the game that I caught. But
There was no strategy. It was just, is this a power move? It is? Okay.
yeah, no, I was just picking the moves that I like the names of. And to be fair, didn't always work, but most of the time it did. Turns out Earthquake, quite a strong move. But
yes.
I loved Platinum and still love Platinum to this day because it ties in the story from Diamond and Pearl together to create a new twist on it that still continues with where Diamond and Pearl went with it. Because the whole shtick of the Diamond and Pearl games was that, as per usual, there's a bad team. There's always a bad team. And they hate, well, they don't hate. They're run by Cyrus, who ultimately wants to, isn't it like break the red chains essentially and imprison either Dialga or Palkia, depending on which game?
It's to gather the red chain.
Is it gathering it specifically to imprison one of them, whichever one that you're in the game of? And as per usual,
you have to get the lake spirits in order to do it.
As per usual, that would end the world. This is also a common theme in Pokemon games.
Technically, what it was,
it was the universe actually.
It was to restart the universe and make it better, according to Cyrus.
So, I mean, that's what he says, but let's be real, just end the entire universe, depending on which one was taken. And what I also love about it is I love Team Galactic, specifically, because of how weird they looked. They look so stupid.
Pattern and Mars and everything.
But then also all of the like administrators and all of the captains and all of the things, they had these weird ass designs that made no sense with what the grunts looked like. And then Cyrus just looked like a tired old man, like who was done with life. And in Platinum in particular, it's obviously the made legendary Pokemon that you're found with is Giratina compared to Dialga or Palkia. And in Pokemon lore, quote unquote, Giratina is basically Satan. Because he's the chaotic one. And Arceus was like, no. And you go into the Distortion world, which has like all of these cool puzzles, and like you go up a waterfall that goes down onto a different end, and you like go on the walls and stuff, and you fight him in this realm. And it's a lovely time, because I also think this generation, fourth gen, right, that I'm thinking of?
Yeah,
fourth gen has some of the most fun activities in the games. Like, that's back when you could do contests. That's back when you could go around and walk around a Poke Park and just walk with a buddy and explore little ruins and everything. And it just had a bunch of fun time, because this was also back when, because it was released on the DS, there's a bunch of ports to get Pokemon from your Game Boy games into the DS versions. And as they started going later on into the DS games, it got much more annoying to transfer the Pokemon up. And that's true. The Underground, big bit.
The Underground was very
that they
fun.
Butchered in the remastered versions.
They did absolutely ruin it.
Because the original one was so fun. It was
you could decorate your own little area.
You could decorate, you could run around, you could set traps up, you could just dig around in the dirt.
You could actually play with other people, not just have them there.
It was just fun. And yeah, and all of the little secrets and stuff mixed in, like the whole Spiritomb thing. And then also Rotom in the chateau. That was freaky. And the ghost girl that was in the chateau that you can't talk to, and the red eyes and the TV, it was a whole thing. Let me tell you.
Have you played Legends Arceus?
No.
Have you seen people play Legends Arceus?
I've seen gameplay. I haven't seen it play through. Because
since you like it so much, I feel like you like Legends Arceus.
Oh, probably. I know that I, generally speaking, would like games set in like Sinnoh area with that kind of lore and stuff.
And it explores a lot of the lore too. and it's meant to go hand in hand with the remakes too. So
I
as
don't trust the
god-awful as they
remakes. See, that's the thing.
it's so much better than the remakes.
I got the Diamond remake, Brilliant Diamond, and I got it partially because I was like, oh, I can relive childhood. And it's like, I did, but at the same time, it was like...
At what cost?
It's the way that they changed a bunch of things, which you'd think with a remake. I mean, granted, it says remake. It doesn't say remaster.
It was a faithful remake.
I wish
which everyone hated.
They would have kept... I wish... Okay, here's the thing. I see where they were going with the whole chibi style, because obviously it makes more sense in line with like how it looked in the original games. But then that partnered with like the Pokemon that you could have out made no sense scale-wise. Yeah. Like you could have like a pocket Dialga next to you, the size of you. It was weird. And the underground, not as fun. It's just sad. Yeah. I do vividly remember though in Platinum, there was a Pokemon breeding route that I would do where you would essentially put your Pokemon in the daycare center, which is on this long route that went all the way up from like high, close to where the mountain started, to all the way down south where the Spiritomb thing was. And you would just ride your bike up and down that over and over again. And that's how you'd hatch your eggs really fast. And I think that was also one of the first times I got... No, I didn't get a shiny from hatching an egg. I got a shiny from running into a Graveler. And then it exploded.
Oh no!
That was my first ever natural shiny encounter, and it just killed itself.
Yeah.
But it was in Platinum. So yeah, Platinum in and of itself, I think, does what Pearl and Diamond did already really well, but it just amped it up, and I think that's what makes it a really, really good game.
Agreed.
Go on.
My second favorite is also a Pokemon game.
Ta-da. It's not that surprising.
Yeah, because if you know me at all, you know I am obsessed with Pokemon. It is one of my various but mine is Pokemon X specifically, which gets a lot of hate.
Later gen.
But I love it a lot. It's a later gen, it's Gen 6. But it was my first official Pokemon game. Because Andrew, my brother, would always get all of the Pokemon games. Because he was older, he was the boy, and he had a DS. So
it's true, the DS does
game.
actually, factor into being able to play a game.
So so he would let me play a little bit of his Pokemon games. So like I played a little bit of not X and Y, Black and White and Black and White 2. I remember specifically doing the like little musicals. But I think it was in Black and White. It was in Black and White because in Black and White 2 they're not as good. So I remember doing the musicals and everything, and I had a lot of fun with that. He was like, don't touch anything. I remember, because he was like, don't touch anything. Don't mess with the Pokemon. Don't go into any battles. Just
God forbid
do
you
this.
Team wipe him.
just do the musicals. And I was like, okay. And so that's all I did. But then I got a 3DS. And they released Pokemon X and Y. And I was like, please, I really want this Pokemon game. And I got it. And like you, I was just vibes.
Exactly. That's just how you play as a child.
No clue what I was doing. I remember you gave me the shiny Eevee, and I was scared to use it because I was like, I don't know what to have.
What if it dies?
Yeah, kind of. So I was like, what do I do? But I have some core memories of it. I was really into the berry farming, go figure.
Yeah.
But I remember also hatching eggs a bunch. I don't know. The thing is, I did not know about shiny hunting. So I was not shiny hunting. In my mind, Rotom was a legendary Pokemon.
I mean,
I did not
similar
know
to like how I thought too, just because the entire like event built around him being in a TV and coming out mysteriously made it seem very mythical and stuff.
Yeah, he was treated like a legendary, so I was like, I'm gonna hatch a bunch of these things. and I'm gonna put them on the GTS to get a bunch of other Pokemon.
Yeah.
And that was what I did. And I remember riding my bike, taping my DS, the little circle pad, to the side, so I just went in circles around Lumiose Tower.
Oh my gosh.
I remember Googling the best way to hatch eggs in Pokemon X, and they said just go around circles and around Lumiose Tower. I'm like, gotcha.
Wow.
And I had a cycle because I would just do that, and then once I hatched all my eggs, I would go back, get more eggs, and then check on my berries because they're right next to each other, and then go back to circling around the city. And I remember
gameplay.
Yeah, truly, that was like pretty much all I did later on, other than going through all the routes again for some reason. I think that I was training up my Pokemon, but like very random Pokemon going through it. It was weird. I just wanted to keep playing the game, but I have certain memories of it. Specifically, I have a memory of, I think I got to the grass or bug gym. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was the bug one. Yeah, because there's a bug gym in there. I don't think there's a grass gym. And I remember I had finally gotten to the gym leader, and I'd just be the gym leader. And this was when we were visiting my now stepdad's family, and so we were sleeping in this very cold little trailer thing. I was freezing my butt off playing Pokemon X, like before going to bed, and I just beat the gym leader, and then my DS shut off before I could save.
Wow.
And I lost it all, and I remember being heartbroken because like I just did all that work, and so I didn't play for a while after that because I'm like, I don't want to do this again. So I
mean,
specifically remember that.
That's sad, but also
It is sad.
Was it X and Y? Was that the original where Fairy was launched?
Yes.
Okay. Because
There's a lot of things that X and Y did.
X and Y.
X and Y was the transfer from 2D to 3D.
Yeah.
It introduced Fairy. It introduced a lot of customization. You could make those little videos. It kind of introduced different. No, there was already different forms.
They sadly got rid of the capsules, though. That was sad.
They did get rid of capsules, but didn't they get rid of capsules like in Gen 5 because people were spelling curse words with them?
I mean, the answer is don't do letters. Like, just have VFX.
But that's one of my core memories. The other one is when my love of Gengar. How I discovered my love of Gengar.
The Mega Evolutions.
Mega Evolutions,
That
yes,
too,
that's
yeah.
also a big thing. But I was Wonder Training because it was called Wonder Trades back then, where you just send out a Pokemon and you get a random Pokemon in between.
Yeah.
And I remember just randomly trading, and I don't think I had it registered in my Pokedex yet, but I got a Haunter one time, and it evolved into a Gengar. And I remember like, this is kind of lame, thinking of that. And then it proceeded to be my ace for the rest of the game. I beat the Elite Four with it. I did and I was like, I love you. That you're my favorite. And it's been my favorite ever since, especially because it can Mega Evolve. I loved that. And it also, its shiny Mega Evolve form is the only good shiny it has. That's the only good one. So...
And you know the funny thing, Hide?
A shiny that just is bad.
They had the Mega Evolutions for that, and I think they had them for like 1 or 2 more generations after that, and then they just got rid of them.
So they had it in Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire. They had them in there because that was they also started doing timeline shit with this. So that was the Ruby and Sapphire where they had Mega Evolution. And then they had it at the end of the Sun and Moon games and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon games. So.
Why just at the end?
I don't know. Because they introduced something else with the Sun and Moon games called Z moves. So I think they wanted that to be the star. But they still kept it in because it was like why not, I guess? They already had the software for it. So may as well. But the last one I have of the core memories with X specifically is, again, Wonder Trading and randomly getting a Yveltal.
Oh.
And I was like, okay.
Okay.
I don't know if it was real, though, to be fair.
See, this is what I'm saying. Pulling back the curtain a bit, the X and Y games were very easy to cheat in. They were not with like a Game Shark or like a DSi action replay or anything, but like there was websites and stuff set up to just give you the exact Pokemon you wanted in the Wonder Trades. And so that's how I got a decent amount of the Pokemon I had in X and Y. Because after X and Y, I think is when they started cracking down on how the GTS system worked. Specific with like how stats and everything worked, and what could and couldn't be sent through, and what made like a genuine tagged version versus like a created one. So yeah, I mean, to be fair, you can still do it in Scarlet and Violet. You can just basically custom make Pokemon and get them sent to you.
Yeah.
But yeah. You can try, well, it depends. Like, there were multiple different versions, specifically with X and Y, because you had access to the global trading system. They had bots set up where you would custom put in all of the stats and the moves and what the Pokemon was holding and the Pokemon, and whether it was shiny or not and all that stuff. And you would have it basically answer your trade request. Like, you would put up a Pokemon and then you would get that back as a trade, because you could just put up Pokemon essentially and wait for someone to trade with them, like Sarah was doing with the Rotoms.
Yeah.
But also, similar to you with the Gengar story, I remember, because remembering it now, because Y was the one I had, and that was the one where Fairy was first introduced. Because Fairy was first introduced, that's also when Sylveon was first introduced. And I specifically remember when I first saw it, I was like, I don't know how I feel about that, because up until that point, my favorite
it was Espeon.
It was Espeon, and I still love Espeon, but I remember I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. It's pink, it's weird. And I got an Eevee through the GTS, and I was trying to evolve it into an Espeon, and it evolved into a Sylveon instead. And so I was like, fine, I'll work with you. And I called him Mr. Sparkles because it was a boy. And you know what? Mr. Sparkles could dazzle, gleam anyone and they would just die. So Mr. Sparkles became my MVP on my team. And I never looked at a Sylveon in a bad way again. Because you know what? The only reason that Eevees evolve into Sylveons is because you loved them.
It's true.
So I loved Mr. Sparkles from that moment on, and I was like, you know what? I will never question you. You are perfect to me.
That's another thing I absolutely adored about Pokemon X was the me.
Okay, no, Shinny. Shinny, no. Okay, so basically, here, I know you don't know about it. So basically, the original 3 starters, I say starters, the original 3 Eevee evolutions that you could do were Jolteon, Flareon, Vaporeon. And that was just based off of giving them a special stone. But then after that, they introduced Umbreon and Espeon, which were specific to when they added daytime and nighttime into the game. So if you wanted to evolve your Pokemon into an Espeon, you do it, you try and level them up during the daytime, and then vice versa, nighttime for Umbreon. And then after that,
I will say Espeon and Umbreon are also friendship based.
They're friendship based too, but they're friendship and time based.
Yes.
And the only reason that they're friendship based comparative to Sylveon is Sylveon needs like almost near max friendship with it.
And also it has to have learned a fairy move.
Yeah. Which it was a whole thing. But then after Umbreon and Espeon, they added in Leafeon and Glaceon, which needed to be around specific environments, more specifically rocks. They needed to be around specific either mossy rocks or icy rocks, which they later changed in later versions to where you use a stone
Yeah.
That's like a mossier icy rock to evolve them into that. And then Sylveon was purely based off of having really high friendship and then having a fairy move, which was typically like, I don't know, helping hand or something.
No, it was Baby Doll Eyes.
Oh, Baby Doll Eyes, yeah. So yeah, it's complicated.
Because they introduced Pokemon to me, which was an entire way to play with your Pokemon, feed your Pokemon.
Oh right, I forgot about the feeding of the cupcakes. Yeah.
Pokepuffs.
I don't know why they call them Pokepuffs. They just look like cupcakes to me.
Well, because they're like a dessert puff.
But I did like that when you made really good versions of it, it added extra decorations to it.
Yes.
So it looked even fancier when you gave it to them.
And I've watched videos about the specifics about Pokepuffs. It's hilarious, actually, how much detail's in it.
But yeah, that's awesome. You just got to pet your Pokemon, essentially. And it was a really fun time because you had not been able to pet your Pokemon up until that point.
No, it's so fun when you get to pet your Pokemon.
And so they have spots that they don't like, and they have spots that they do like.
And then there's certain Pokemon where it's like you can't, if they're on fire, you can't touch the fire, or else it burns your hand. Or if they're electricity, you can't touch that, or it shocks you. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
I love that part because I was like, oh, I have little pets.
It's always fun making a little legendary smile because you're like, oh my gosh, you love me. You're the god of destruction and you love me.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much. So I remember that. That was fantastic.
I think X and Y, for sure. I think it gets a lot of flack specifically because it introduced a bunch of new things like all at the same time. And so that's kind of like jarring.
It also didn't get a third game. One of the reasons it gets a lot of flack, it was supposed to.
It was supposed to, and they scrapped it.
There was a lot of things in X and Y that were supposed to be answered in Z, and then it never happened.
What is the Ghost Girl's deal?
The Ghost Girl, that little message behind the signpost at the train station.
Everything
the
about
entire
it.
Zygarde thing, which did kind of get resolved in Sun and Moon.
I remember when I first found Zygarde, I was like, oh my gosh, because it's just like when you could find other Pokemon in like Diamond and Pearl. When I found him, I was like, this must be a clue because of how weird he was and how weird looking he was and how he started with a Z. So obviously I was like, that must be the next game, and then nothing happened.
Yeah, and that's why we're very excited about ZA because I found out about Pokemon ZA at work, and I was jumping out of my seat. I was so excited. I watched that Pokemon Direct and it was just like, oh.
I wonder if they're gonna make it similar to how Legends Arceus is.
So since it is a Legends game, we're assuming so. But one of the things that we do know about it, well, we're assuming about it, is that it's going to be based around the creation of Lumio City. So, because that was the entire trailer about, hey, this new city is being built, and here's this plan for it. And it was said Lumio City, so.
See, Hide, you say that Pokemon can be weird, but Digimon is so odd. From what I have seen. You say managing Pokemon? Girl, I've seen what it's like the Digimon looks like a little trash bag, and then it turns into like a six-winged, barely clothed angel. Like, I don't understand how the Digimon works. It's so confusing to me.
I will say there are certain elements about X's story as well that are really good, in my opinion.
Versus Y?
No, they have the same story.
Not necessarily. It's two different legendaries that they're focusing on.
Two different legendaries. It's like the legendary thing is a little bit weird to me, simply because one, it's like if you the flare guy that I can't remember. I know it's Team Flare, and they were so gay, but
wow.
Team Flare.
Lysander.
Lysander, yes. He just looks really cool, but it was like, I'm trying to remember, it was creating something, or it was destroying. It was like creating the world or destroying the world.
I.e., what the Pokemon do.
Yeah, obviously, but there were more nuances about it, and I can't remember.
I just remember that one town that there was that giant thing that came out of the ground. That was what I
Yes.
remember specifically.
And then it was always destroyed for the rest of the game
yeah.
because all of that. But there were well, the post game was also just really fun, because Looker was involved, and you got to be a little detective
I didn't like
around
Looker.
Lumia City.
Unpopular opinion, the Looker
Very
stuff annoyed me.
unpopular opinion.
Because I was running around everywhere, and then he kept trying to talk to me, and I'm like, I have places to be. Please.
I don't have time to play detective with you. But the entire aspect of that giant war that went on between people and Pokemon fascinates me.
I mean, if they explore
Lore-wise.
that in the
I'm
ZA, that would be interesting.
They do. I really, really hope they do, because they introduced Z, who was that giant dude who lived for like 1,000 years or whatever,
Yeah.
who lost his Flabébé. They introduced him.
That's also not a
very
pun. That's just what a
briefly.
Pokemon's name is.
Yes,
It's Flabébé.
his little Flabébé. And so I really want them to explore that, because they kind of explored it in Alpha Sapphire Omega Ruby, where they were like, there's two timelines, one where the ultimate weapon was shot during the war, one where there wasn't, and one led to Mega Evolution, one didn't. And that's why there's two separate versions of Ruby and Sapphire.
That
Like,
was
that's how
them
they-
trying to say, this is why we're not doing Mega Evolutions anymore.
No, that's also why they said this is why there's Mega Evolutions in Ruby and Sapphire.
I swear.
So yeah, that's why I love.
I will say, a runner-up for me for favorite Pokemon game after Platinum, like right after Platinum, is Heart Gold. Because I love that game so much. Everyone loves Soul Silver. I don't care about Lugia. Heart Gold's where it's at. Okay? It's pretty. And that's also Heart Gold and Soul Silver are the ones that came with that tiny little Pokewalker that I totally lost. But I used to have it, and it was fun to be able to walk with your Pokemon like on a little pedometer. Lugia's nast.
Lugia's the king of the sea, and he's not even a water type.
And you know what? Ho-Oh is a damn Pride Parade float. Okay?
It's true.
And
The
Ho-Oh's
gayest
pretties
girl.
are just color. Wait, hold on. I just said Ho-Oh's pretties are just colorier.
Just colors.
Colorier.
Colorier.
But honestly, yeah, I think so. Ho-Oh's prettier. Fight me, Hide. You're wrong. I don't care. Oh no, absolutely. Out of the legendary dogs, Suicune, my favorite, for sure.
Yeah, it's either Suicune or Entei for me. About those.
I know.
think it's
Raikou
Suicune.
has a special place in my heart just because he has the little thunder butt with the little lightning tail.
Raikou in my mind is the derpy one of the trio.
But yeah, I don't care. That's the other thing. The Ho-Oh had the dogs. Lugia
true.
is the one that had the dumb birds. The birds I don't care about. I like the dogs more. But anyways, okay. Off topic. That was Pokemon Rant. Anyways. So my
I will say,
all-time,
you got to say that. I get to say Scarlet's my other one.
which is surprising.
People really don't like Scarlet, but I really, really love Scarlet.
I wouldn't say it's near my favorites, but I don't think it's as bad as people think it is. Gameplay-wise,
Gameplay-wise,
functionality-wise, it is as bad as people say it is.
it needed more time.
But story-wise, I don't mind it.
Story-wise, it's fantastic.
Anyways, okay, so my all-time favorite game. I swear I've said this to you before. And technically speaking, I have played this game on stream before. I played it for the very first time on stream before, but it became my favorite game. Is Sayonara Wild Hearts. And this might seem very left field compared to like the two Nintendo games from before, but Sayonara Wild Hearts, it incorporates every single thing I love in a game into one. So Sayonara Wild Hearts is basically a rhythm game at its core, and it doesn't have to be like a hardcore rhythm game because it has a story behind it, but the story is interpretive, but I'll get into that. But it is a rhythm game by itself, so the entirety of it is focused around music. obviously. And the
Do it again.
music, you love Undertale music. Sayonara Wild Hearts music is banger. Let me tell you, you
That's
will
fair.
be raving in your bedroom. It is so fun, stressful sometimes, but fun. And so that automatically takes playing the game up to another level for me, because it's not just that the music itself, like the tracks they have in the levels, are good, but then they have different versions of the tracks in different parts of the menus, and it's just mwah. Just all of the music to me sounds sparkly, and I love that. And
God, you're so gay.
I know. Speaking of gay, let me tell you about the art style. Because something that Sayonara Wild Hearts does amazing, in my opinion, is they make the best kind of weird polygonal art style work in a simplistic yet also very thought out way. Because by itself, it's not like a very detailed game in the sense of like you don't get things with really high texture counts or anything, but you get things with extremely detailed designs. So like the entire basis around it is with tarot cards, and they, at the beginning of each level, there's a tarot card and everything that you see, and it's a completely custom design. And it's holographic. They make all of these particles and stuff holographic, where they shift colors and everything when they move, and all of the noises that happen go with the music, and it's all like twinkly and sparkly. And so it's just, it looks amazing. And we're not talking about Space Channel 5. I wouldn't say that's my favorite game, but I would say that is a hilarious game that I do like.
I think that's my favorite stream we've ever done.
That stream was so stupid. Oh my gosh. Anyways, I wish someone would have saved the VOD, but you know what? I didn't think of it at the time. Anyways, and then after the music and the art style is the story. Now, the story is a weird one, because technically speaking, first of all, it's narrated by Queen Latifah in the beginning and the end, which is a very random thing to happen there. But it says like a vague story of like, it's about a girl who had her heart so violently broken it shattered the entirety of the universe, essentially, and how the whole point of her was to then try and fix the universe by fixing her broken heart. But the thing is, it's vague enough where I feel like multiple people can apply their own experiences to the entirety of the messaging while still having fun. Because I will say I have cried multiple times playing this game. Because it's so, everything together, it just melts together very beautifully. And all of the levels are themed around essentially going and confronting these people, whether it's like a gang of motorcyclists, or it's like these two twins that are trying to kill you with a giant sword that turned into an airplane, or fighting on a VR headset with someone that's in there after going for a night drive in the desert. Like, it's crazy. And it's amazing because it's crazy. Because it all, even as crazy and out there as it is from one level to the next, it just fits so well together. And my favorite of all favorite tracks and specific levels is when you're fighting Little Death. That's what they're called. And their little stupid blonde wig that's like cut into a bob. And it's after you punch them for the third time, and then they start spewing vomit, and you start riding on their vomit and literally you're riding on a circle essentially, where you can go all the way around it over and over again in a column, and you chase them to try and kiss them. So yeah.
All right.
It's an extremely crazy game, but the soundtrack is banger, and you don't need to play it with the intention of doing really good at the rhythm part of it. You can just play it for fun and have fun playing it that way too. Even though I have all of the achievements and I've gold starred all of the courses, that's because I'm crazy. That doesn't have to be your experience. But
that's what you do when you love a game.
I highly recommend it for anyone who likes rhythm games. Because that's another fun part of it. All of the secret achievements and stuff that you do are called zodiac riddles, and they're based off of the zodiac signs, and there's an A side and a B side, and they're riddles that you have to figure out what you have to do by what the riddle says.
Well, that's fun.
So it's a very fun time, and it is forever going to be in my top spot until something else wows me, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. So, Sarah, I already know what your favorite game is, but you get to dump now all the info about why you like the game.
You did sell that very well, by the way. I do want to play it, especially you say rhythm game. I'm like, ooh, I love rhythm game. So, I will play it one day once I have a computer.
One day.
Listen, my computer's on its last threads.
Oh, I
have
know.
to perish it.
We all know.
My favorite game is one I've talked about a lot because I love it and I think it's a really, really good game. It is Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch, the first Ni no Kuni game. I have not played or seen anything about the next two games, but
Don't spoil
I
it.
don't.
Just in case.
I don't really care, frankly, but
Wow. Okay.
from what I've seen, they just don't have the same charm. Because the entire premise of Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch is that there is this little boy who loses his mom in an accident. And let me back up.
There's more.
There's this little boy who is being targeted by this like omnipresent witch is what she's called. She's called the White Witch, and she's like, she can see things that are happening, and she can change the outcome of things with her magic.
Oh my gosh, just like the witch game that I played.
And she specifically is like, this kid is the chosen one or whatever. The one that will seal the darkness is what I think he called. And he's like, let me kill him. So she tries to kill him, and in the process, his mother goes to save him, and she saves him and dies instead.
Okay.
And so through a series of events, his plushie comes to life. I love Mr. Drippy, that's the name of the plushie. He has this Scottish accent. It's the best thing ever. I love him so much. And they go to the other realm, is what it's called. My world versus your world. And so it's basically a mirrored world, but with magic and everything. And all of these different things, like
The better
there's
world.
there's a king that's a cat. There's a queen that's a giant cow. So like there's a whole bunch of stuff. And it's really fun. And all of the big cutscenes are animated by Studio Ghibli, which I think is one of the coolest parts about it. And one of the things I try to say when I'm trying to sell because I'm like, well, you know who Studio Ghibli is. But it has the aspect of Pokemon that I love, where you get to collect a bunch of little creatures called familiars. And there's no like shiny hunting or anything, but there's so many different familiars. There's so many familiars, and they all have what I would call split evolutions. They're called metamorphosis in this one, but they're technically split evolutions because you can either go one route or you can go the other route.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to get two of everything.
I mean, that's cool though.
Yeah, and it's I love it. And some of them are just so stupid looking too, and I love it. Like one's just, I think one is just a bundle of bananas, but they're called babanas in this world.
Okay.
And I love it, and they're in the desert. Like this desert town is just known for its babanas, and I love it so dearly. And it's kind of a little fucked because
What?
you have this kid. It's like I think 7 or 9 or something like this, and he has to go to this completely other world after his mom died to go seal the darkness and kill this like specter thing. He has to fight a heart.
Well, to be fair, that is also kind of very Studio Ghibli.
That is true. But it's him. There's a girl that joins who how you catch all the different familiars, and then there is this crotchety old man who's my favorite. After Mr. Drippy the plushie, he is my favorite. I don't want to spoil it in case anyone plays it. So, but And the thing is, whenever you think the game is done, it's not. And that's one of the things I love about it too, is there's so much content. It's such a big game, and there's so much post-game stuff too that you can do. And so and it has kind of things. So if you like magic, there's stuff for that. If you like tinkering, there's stuff for that. If you like alchemy, there's stuff for that. If you like the aspect of Pokemon, there's stuff for that. If you just like exploring the world, because it has this giant map that you explore, you can go to different locations, and then it becomes an actual like world, like classic RPG style thing. You can do that, and and if it tells you anything about how much I love this game, there is a magic book that the main character has, and it slowly gets refilled as time goes on with pages and everything. And I have a printed out version of that cost me $200.
Sarah's
I
crazy.
wanted to get it in color. It's not in color, unfortunately. I wanted to get it in color, but it's not in color because that would have cost you. But I have that, and I love it because
you
you
can color
do, like,
it in yourself.
I don't think that would work, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to ruin it like that. But I adore this game. I brought bring it full circle. I brought that book to the mental hospital.
Oh God.
Because I was doing a little journaling project with it. But I think one of my favorite aspects of it, and I use this a lot in the mental hospital, it has an aspect of taking heart and giving heart.
I'm just thinking people are like, yeah, she brought a magic book with her. We don't know what she's doing in that corner.
Just this binded magic book.
Yeah, she has this magic like tome in front of her, and she's eating a piece of toast, scribbling in her notebook.
Yes, this is how I make this little pudding thing.
I mean, it sounds fun.
It does. One of the key aspects of it, I will say this, the last thing I'll say about it, is that it has an aspect of taking heart and giving heart. And it of different, like, values almost. Like, one of the first ones you do is enthusiasm. And it's basically taking from people who have too much of it to the point that it could be detrimental to them, or if they have extra to spare, and then giving it to someone who doesn't have enough of it. So, like, one of the first things that you do is you are trying to enter a city, and there are 2 guards at the gate, and you're trying to open the gate, but both of the guards need to agree to open the gate in order to do it. And one of the guards is being really lazy, really just like I don't want to do anything. Why am I here? I just want to go to sleep, sort of deal. And the other one's like brimming with energy and like, yeah, let's do this stuff. I'm ready to fight or whatever. And so that's when you're taught, okay, you need to take the enthusiasm from the guard that's really pumped up, and you ask him like, hey, can I take this enthusiasm? You have to ask for consent.
Gotta teach the children right.
And so you say, hey, you have a lot of enthusiasm. Can I take that for someone who needs it? And they're like, yeah, sure. And they don't ask questions. They're like, sure, do it. And so you cast a spell, you take some of their enthusiasm, you keep it in a little locket that you have, and then you go over to the other soldier and you're like, hey, it looks like you're missing enthusiasm, let me give it to you. And then you don't often ask for consent to give them the value. You ask to take it, but not to give it. You just do it, the giving. And so you just cast a spell and you give them the enthusiasm, and then they get whatever that missing virtue is. And so in this case, enthusiasm. So they're like, oh, my job, right, I need to be doing that. You want to be let in? Yeah, we'll let you in.
I mean, hey, ultimately, it sounds very up my alley too, in the sense of like magic and stuff.
I think you would enjoy it. It also just has a really good story too. The story is really, really well done, and it has a good mix. I do love
children with dead parents. You never know.
And like, there's an entire town where you aren't allowed to wear clothes. You have to wear bathing suits and they do that to keep crime down. And oddly enough, the first thing that happens in the town while you're there is something gets stolen. So,
Okay, but that's still weird that you're like, you can't wear normal clothing, child. You must wear a bathing suit in our town.
everyone's wearing a bathing suit. But I know I said that was the last thing. The one last thing I will say about it for real this time is that when it became my favorite game, I had never played it yet. I had only watched someone play it. Because it was originally on the PS3 or 4, and so I had no way of playing it. Eventually, it got ported to not only Switch, but PC. So I initially bought it on PC, and then I got it on Switch when I got a Switch.
A lot of different versions.
So I played it on Switch now. And eventually, I want to play it on my PC to stream it.
You know, when she gets a good one.
When I get a good one. But I want to do that, and I want to 100% it. And I want to do it on stream so I can show the
How
world.
long does it take to 100% it, though?
Let me look. Because it would take a while.
Because you said not only the whole collection aspect, but that you can go to the different parts of the world after the fact.
And there's a lot of collectible stuff, and there's like different quests and everything.
Ew, Mikey, you like
even
Warframe?
Just to beat the main story, it can take up to like 70 hours. If you're taking your time. How long does it take to 100% it? Closer to like 130 hours.
I mean, it's not as crazy. As someone that's played like Baldur's Gate for over 400 hours, I don't find that as a crazy amount.
Yeah, like I've played Stardew for a long time, so it's not that wild. Like I will say the other two, my fourth and fifth games are Stardew and Minecraft.
Wow. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? I know.
A farming game and a game where you can farm.
A farming game, and then a game I've been playing for years that happens to have farming.
Mikey, I don't have anything. Well, I have things against you, but that has nothing to do with Warframe. Warframe, in and of itself, very popular game franchise, and all in multiple, just like as a game, but also as like a tabletop game too, with all the figurines and stuff. I've never been into it. I know a lot of people that are into it, but I've never been into it. And it's the same with people with that like Final Fantasy. I know a lot of people that like Final Fantasy, but I've never been into those games. And to be fair, I've never tried playing a Final Fantasy game. But that's what confuses me, is that every single Final Fantasy game is basically a different game. And so I have no clue which one I would even like. And Persona scares me. Because there's a lot. I've heard a lot about it. But, you know, it could be fun. But also, that one is very, even though it's not like an aspect in the game itself of like a requirement, but it feels very music driven, the Persona franchise.
I think I promised Hide that I would play it if he
what?
if he bought it for me.
Oh, well, Hide doesn't buy anything for us.
I gave him my terms. See, whether or not he takes it is on him.
I don't mind turn-based games. I think it depends on the turn base. Because I know, like, obviously in Final Fantasy and stuff, they have the limits and, like, stuff that builds up over time. I don't know how it works in Persona. I just know that it works a different way slightly. But if you like Pokemon, like the classic Pokemon, I feel like you're going to be fine with turn-based games.
Yeah, that's to say Pokemon is like, oh, really turn-based. So.
It's like, I feel like Pokemon is a very epitome of the basic of a turn-based game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say, you know, funnily enough, I do love the Bayonetta series. And I only played that technically recently. Well, I say recently. Within at least the past 6 years, I've played Bayonetta. All 3 of the games. But third, definitely not as good. Second, good. But even though the first one is technically really old at this point, And by really old, I don't mean like in the 90s, but still older. I still think it's my favorite, even if it looks slightly more dated than the other two, because it just has a vibe. You can strap chainsaws to your legs. It's a whole thing. Or swords, or whips. It's always fun to just whip people around and hit them into each other. But yeah, one day I would love to stream a Bayonetta game, because I don't think Sarah's ever seen any of them
I've
played.
seen like bits and pieces, but nothing like big. I watched my dad play a few, and my brother play a little bit, but
Andrew played Bayonetta? When?
As far as I can remember. I'm
I
pretty
don't
sure he did.
remember.
Andrew, if you're in the chat, confirm or deny.
I just always remember the story of how when I went to get the second one, which was bundled with the first one, because I wanted to be able to play both, on the Wii U, mind you. That's how old this is.
Okay, then it's Dad who's played it. I thought you had played it. Maybe not.
I went with my sister, and we went to the GameStop, and I had the money for it, and I picked it, and then the guy was like, "Are you over 18?" And I was like, "No," and he was like, "You need to be an adult to get this game." So I looked over at my sister, and she looked at me with a "What the hell is in this game?" And then she gave him her ID. But yeah.
I can just imagine you like, okay, looking over, like, hello?
To be fair, I mean, it's not, I'm not gonna say it's not porn, but it's not technically porn. There's nothing sex-wise that goes on in it. Bayonetta just herself is a very sexual character. And she's made to be that way. It's not like she's unnecessarily, like she's meant to be a crazy, stupid sexual character. But that's why I think I enjoy it more, because of how obnoxiously out there it is. But yeah, it's just fun. It's a good beat them up game, essentially, because that's all you do in it. You try and do combos and hit people and kill them.
I don't think I would be good at it.
Well, you say that, it's much easier than you think. It's literally a kick button, a punch button, and then a whatever weapon you're using button.
I mean, you've seen me play Smash Bros. Though.
You aren't good at dodging things. that's kind of like a core aspect in the Bayonetta game.
I will say I have gotten fairly far in Cuphead.
Very different game.
I know, but like dodging
If anything,
wise,
I feel like Bayonetta much more forgiving with the dodging, because they even have a skill you can get where even if you get hit and you press the dodge button, it'll still count as a dodge. So
Okay.
it's a very satisfying dodge mechanic too, because it basically turns it into bullet time, and you get to hit everything while they're in slow-mo, but you're moving fast. But yeah, if you've ever seen, I don't know if you saw, but when Shani played the Bayonetta games, think of it like
I
that.
did or not.
Think of it like that, and how she played it. That's how I imagine you would play it. But I mean, there is multiple characters you can also play as. I'm not talking about the third one, Hide. We're not talking about that. But if you play as Jean, you can only activate the slow motion if you press the dodge button right when you get hit. And so it's a very much harder experience. But you can also dress up as Slutty Peach
Thank God.
and
guess.
Slutty Star Fox, if you can imagine
Oh,
that.
God.
Yeah, the outfits from the first game were kind of iconic. Yeah, or Slutty Link, you can do that too.
Slutty Link makes sense.
But it's not, the funny part is, it's probably the least slutty, because she's like wearing full-on pants in that one. But yeah, I got it, and so I had those versions, Hide. But the Peach one is definitely slutty. You can see right up her skirt. Which is funny considering the outfit she wears is just skin tight, but also like in the lore, her outfit is completely made of hair, i.e. why Hide is technically Bayonetta in a different life. And when she has to use her hair, because she uses her hair for magic powers, her hair comes off her body and she's just naked. So
What?
that's why there's a you need to be an adult to play this for it. Because she's technically just naked, covered in hair all the time.
Pussy out?
They cover it strategically. If I remember correctly, the way she's revealed in her outfit in the first game is she's dressed up like a nun, and then angels come and attack her, and they slice her booty and her boobs, and they're covered by sparkles, so you can't see anything. But then she gets into her full outfit with her hair. But yeah, it's confusing. But it's funny, you know? She has a leotard on specifically in Smash Bros. Because she couldn't just be fully naked when she used her hair attacks. But that her normal thing is she'll just be fully naked when she uses her magic to summon like demons and stuff. But yeah. Anyways. This has been us talking about our favorite games.
You thought we couldn't fill an hour and a half with this.
I didn't. It's not that I thought we couldn't. It's that I didn't know if the other games would fill it. But I think the Pokemon rant really padded it out.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope maybe you take into account our favorite games and think about playing them in your future. Granted, you might not be able to get a copy of the original like Pokemon games and stuff, unless it's like a $500 copy. But emulation, it's a hell of a thing. I'm someone for emulation, because I've seen some people that are like, you shouldn't emulate, or people saying it's not the same, and to me it's like, it's the same game essentially. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
And also anyone can play it if they had never played it before, so just do it. But anyways,
We know you do, Hide.
Mikey, I try not to let you add your nickel because it's not a good one. But
Dear Lord.
you're a bad nickel, Mikey. I want you to know that.
You're
And-
bullying the child.
He's not a child anymore. I'm allowed to bully him. His mom didn't die. Anyways, we're gonna end stream now. So thanks for watching. Oh, and also I might not stream on this Wednesday, but I might, but I also might not. So don't expect anything. Bye.
Bye.